Brilliant. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. Happy Thursday. It's nice and sunny outside, so I hope you're all in a great mood this morning, ready for a great session as well. So this morning's session, we'll be discussing how to develop your sales strategy using a 7-step process. This will also include how to manage the process remotely, which is fantastic given the current climate. It'll be nice and informative, really relevant as well for you all. It'll be nice and interactive as well. We'll be utilising the breakout room facility for some more in-depth conversations. So do try and keep your cameras on as well for us. It's nice to see everyone's faces, and obviously in breakout rooms too, it's really great that we can see all your faces then. This morning we're joined by Alistair, Katherine and Chris. They're the team at Smart Marketing. We work really closely with them here at the Chamber and can confidently say you're in a great hands this morning. So it'll be fantastic and hope we're all looking forward to it. I'll let the team properly introduce themselves. So I'll hand over to Alistair first for you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Molly. Good morning. It's great to virtually meet you all this morning. Welcome to this webinar on the sales process. As Molly mentioned, in light of development over the last year or so, we will be incorporating how to sell online as well. We ran a session very similar to this on marketing last autumn, and I believe some of you went on that and are back to date, so thank you for that. We also thank you to the Chamber for kindly welcoming us back to this important subject. As Molly mentioned, it will be a totally interactive event, so you will be working this morning. What we try to do is to, within the confines of the digital format, is replicate what we do at one of our physical offline. So you will be in breakout rooms. You will get to know your fellow delegates as you bring ideas going through the morning. Molly is at the moment warming up the randomizer so that hopefully you'll get to meet lots of lovely new contacts as well. If you do miss any of the slides, then please don't panic. You will get the chance to get the full slide deck afterwards. The chat function is now on, so and will be monitored. So please put down any questions, any comments, any feedback. It will be absolutely perfect. So I had a very nice introduction from Molly. But who are we? Smart Marketing network of business advisors and marketing consultants based in Essex and Kent. My name's Alistair, and I've been involved in the Chamber movement since 1999 as an employee, subcontractor, and now as a member. I've got a background in sales, and I've got a passion for helping small, medium-sized enterprises with their lead gen and sales conversion. My colleague Katherine, who is waving, was marketing director at Eurotunnel. She's got lots of experience of putting strategic thought into a marketing plan and really taking some of those corporate ideas and translating those for businesses of all sizes and descriptions. We have a sister company, Smart Support, and that's represented today by my good friend Chris, who has done a nonchalant wave there. That's very nice. Chris is based over in Essex, and got a stable of clients that he's been able to coach and help throughout the COVID crisis. And that sort of adds to sort of 15 years or so of business advice experience. If you're lucky enough to get Chris in your breakout room as facilitator, please rinse him for information. He's a wealth of information. We have other colleagues, Philip and Tim. They've worked very closely with the Kent Medway Growth Hub throughout the whole crisis period, firstly fielding calls to the help desk and then delivering tailored advice session. So that's us. What about that question? How many people here would answer in the affirmative? In fact, put your hands up if you would answer in the affirmative to that question. Who enjoys sales? Well, that's lovely to see. That's really lovely to see. but I'm sure not all of you jump out of bed when you've got a sales meeting. In fact, they might absolutely fill you with complete dread. Have you found selling during the COVID period? And I know what it's like when you're waiting patiently in front of your laptop as a stranger's face pops up in front of you. It can be very daunting. Do you actually feel uncomfortable when you sell? Do you feel a bit bashful? Do you hate saying how brilliant you are? Do you feel like a bit of a Del boy? Well, in reality, good selling is just helping the prospect to buy. You're a navigator, not a hunter. You're the good guy. That's important to remember. And sales are necessary. The average company loses between 10 and 30% of their customers every year. Natural churn. So it's really important for us to always be on the lookout for new clients. And as part of that, we do need to sell. So what we want is, if you take nothing else away from the session today, we want to make you feel comfortable as you go through the sales process. But we'd love it if you got to a stage where you actually enjoy it. So what will we actually cover today? Well, we're looking to, obviously, as I say, make you feel comfortable. We're going to share with you a magic formula that will actually change your life forever, and could quite possibly make you a millionaire. Possibly. Now, we also want you to get as much from your prep as possible, and then go through the 7-stage sales process that will make you feel as comfortable and in control of that sales meeting as much as possible. Because the more prepared you are, the more in control you'll be, and the more confident you'll be. And the more confident you are means the more you'll be able to listen. You'll actually be able to listen to your prospect when they're giving you information, which means you can adapt the features of your product or service to the customer's need. If you're able to do that, if you're able to demonstrate that, then you actually increase the chance of getting the sale. Now, each sales meeting ends with a yes, no, or maybe. And through the session today, we're going to look at what to do with each of those eventualities. So what would more sales mean for you? It'd be good if we could sort of consider what that would be like as we spend time with each other today. We've chalked up just a few of those outcomes. If you do get more sales, if you're able to predict the sales that you're going to get in any given quarter, then you can work back, work out how many leads you need to get those sales, and you can adapt your marketing accordingly. And also, if you're confident in the number of sales, then operationally you can adapt what you're doing. In fact, you're going to be sort of able to work more on your business than in your business. You'll actually be one step ahead. And it could be that business planning for you might actually become fun. You might actually really enjoy business planning. So it's really important that we get a hold of the sales process. So what's actually stopping? What are the challenges you actually have from selling? Well, this is going to be the subject of our first breakout room. This is where we're going to get you to do some work. So please feel free to brainstorm in your groups. What stops you? And we've got Molly on the randomizer who's going to put you into your breakout rooms. So be really interested in your feedback on that, and we'll get back together again in 5 minutes or so to see what we think. Now that's good. I hope everyone's bonded with their group. Has there been any points that have come out of that, Katherine?
Yeah, interesting. In my group, one of the interesting parts that was raised up was actually getting the first contact in place. That can be quite scary, and cold calling is uncomfortable. We had several comments about how to make that skill process more comfortable, so that you didn't feel like you're climbing up a hill every time.
No, that's really good. Yeah, because if you can start to enjoy it, there's a chance you'll do it more, isn't there? Which is really good. There was
Alistair, good morning. Alistair, Kaz Macklin, Kent Invicta Chamber. Good morning to you. Good morning to Katherine. Who? For those of you that don't know me, everybody, good morning. Apologies for my lateness. Molly, apologies to you as well. I was in an absolutely fantastic group just now. And one of the questions, Alistair, that they raised is the people that I was with, I was very privileged. They were very competent with social media, its workings, its processes. And what they were saying is that disappointingly, the engagement that they get is a lot less than what they would like. And one of my guests in the room was saying that she'd spoken to her coach about it, and they were saying you've got to dumb down your content and assume that everybody is not at the competency level, because a lot of the engagement that she had was with new beginners who were not as competent as arguably we are here today. I mean, all of you guys are on Zoom, you're all managing it. Hats off to all of you, well done. But not everybody who is a small business owner or a sole proprietor has that skill set yet. Alistair, Katherine, do you have any observations on that?
Well, it's a really interesting point, isn't it? I mean, in our breakout room, we were talking about some of the challenges, obviously, and it does come into the marketing. It's the first part of that conversation. With sales, you're looking to close the conversation that you start initially with your marketing activity. So, I mean, that is a really good point, perhaps to I know we would say this, but to have a look at what your marketing strategy is, who you're going to, and what the message is there, because that will then lead into how you go through the process and finalise it with the sale.
I think it's really important to talk in the language of your clients. And I think lots of people assume a level of knowledge, Kaz, as you were talking about there, amongst their clients. And it's something I'll bring up later, but talking in acronyms and jargon and making people feel uncomfortable. You're never going to close the sale if your client feels dumb. So I do think you need to make it simple, make it easy. And even someone who's competent loves do this, do that. Don't we all love opening up a box and there's instructions? First job this, second job that, and then you feel comfortable and you know where you're at. Anyway, Alistair,
that's interesting, because of course, as a bloke, I never look at the instructions. In our little group, we had some interesting comments. We found that engaging and creating rapport with customers was something that, or potential customers was something that we might struggle with. And actually the other one which came across was very much about, if you don't like the selling process, then A, you tend to put it off a bit and maybe find other things to do which you enjoy more. And B, in some cases, there's always that fear of rejection. And that's something which I think can be quite it can be quite difficult to overcome sometimes. So maybe we can talk about that today as well.
Really good, excellent. Yeah. It sounds like there was some really good stuff that came out of the rooms. Was there anything else, Katherine, on what you?
It was about working out a skill set, and I think we're going to cover that in the in this session. And actually, if you put the skills together and put a process to it, then it's not quite so daunting. I think lots of people are frightened of the telephone, and as Chris was saying, procrastinate. But I think if you put a process together, then you'll probably feel more comfortable with it.
Brilliant stuff. Excellent. That's it. Well, I'm pleased to say that a lot of the points that were covered will be sort of covered in our presentation. So if if we look at there we go. So these are some of the challenges that we've had at previous sessions. So yeah, that point there about building the rapport, understanding the prospect's needs. Technology, that was one thing that came out of our group. You know, how to use technology to your benefit part of the sales process. And then the closing on the day, that part of the the prospect's only going to say yes, no, or maybe. So what to do with each of those decisions that they make, and how you deal with rejection as well. You know, it's always good to have a strategy, because not everyone's going to say yes. So it's planning for the eventuality that they say no as well. So we're going to cover this all off with a 7-step process that should be robust enough to help the sales process in your own business. It all starts with this magic formula. So I think, Katherine, it's time to reveal the formula.
Hey, everyone. So this formula, which Alistair is going to bring up for us, was actually written by Ken Blanchard in a book called The 1 Minute Sales Manager. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. He also wrote The 1 Minute Manager. Does anybody recognise this formula? Do put in the chat if you can think of what these letters might stand for. I'm going to run you through it though. So this is the basic premise for most sales situations. And if I start with the right-hand side of the formula, the R, that actually stands for the resistance to being sold to. You know the situation, you walk into a shoe shop with every intention of buying a pair of shoes, and then the sales assistant walks up to you and says, "Can I help you?" And you're like, "No, thank you, I'm just browsing." That's the resistance to being sold to, and that happens over the phone when someone calls us up quite often. We just don't want any interference. We want to do it on our own. So to successfully sell, we need to overcome this resistance to being sold to. So we need to make sure that the rest of the formula to the left-hand side is greater than the resistance to being sold to. So what do you think the D stands for? Any ideas? Feel free to put it in the chat. It actually stands for, it's not desire, I'm sure that's probably what everybody's thinking. It stands for dissatisfaction or need. Nothing is perfect in this world, despite what someone says. There's always a dissatisfaction or something that can be improved, whether it's saving money to meet budget constraints or an improved service, increased quality, or something that might even enhance a prospect's personal life, like having more time or being able to recruit a team. Now, if you multiply that by V is the vision. So this is what the world would look like if that need was fulfilled. And establishing what the vision is with your prospect is really a good way to help understand the gap between how it is at the moment, where they're sitting, and where they would like to be. Often these conversations can refocus what can be achieved within a business. And then you need to add in FS. I know this looks a bit random, but you might want to note this one down because it's a really useful formula, and we're going to be referring back to it in the rest of the presentation. FS is first steps, and this is how you can help them meet their needs and achieve their vision. So what your solution is and how it will help them and how it's going to be tailored to suit. So once you get the dissatisfaction multiplied by the vision of where they want to be, plus the first steps of how you're going to solve their problem, greater than the resistance to being sold to, then hopefully you'll be successful. So how does it work in practice? We're going to run you through it. There are 7 steps that we've identified that you can use in your sales process. And this boils down to preparation and planning, your introduction and opening, a questioning session, then how you're going to present your services, products, how you're going to overcome the objections and manage your negotiation, then closing the deal and getting an agreement, and then the follow-up and how you're going to fulfill your commitments. So we're going to take an opportunity to go through these in a bit more detail. And remember, dissatisfaction times vision plus your first steps needs to be greater than the resistance to being sold to. So the first step on it is preparation. So when considering a pre-planned one-to-one sales meeting, ideally in person, I remember those days, but now we're doing most of it over Zoom, sadly, what preparation do you need to think about to get ready for a sales meeting? Perhaps put in the chat any ideas that you have about what the preparation is, and Alistair can heckle me if need be, if I'm not covering off the points. But generally speaking, the larger the prospect that you're going to be selling to, the more preparation you really need to do. So you need to know your own products and services really well to start with, and what your unique selling points are and advantages and benefits. You don't want to be tripped up on something like a technical point that you don't know the answer to. And then you need to know what the current arrangement is with your prospect. Who are they working with currently, and what might their dissatisfaction be? and what their challenges are. Hopefully you'll have found this out in the initial inquiry and why they've come to you in setting up the meeting. Understand who the real decision makers are in the organisation as well. You might be having a meeting with just a sales representative, or maybe it's the CEO who actually owns the purse strings and can make the decision. That's a really important point. You need to prepare your opening statement and practice your sales presentation. That's really important. It can be really hard to explain what you're about in a clear and concise way. And quite often we find when we talk to our clients, when we ask them to explain their business, they don't know what to say, and they use jargon, they use acronyms, and that's a real mistake. It was what we were talking about before, because it makes your client feel stupid, and you really don't want them to do that. Prepare a presentation as well, even if it's just a few notes for yourself, but it could be some PowerPoint slides like this that you could share on a screen with someone, or some handouts that you can send through to them, and any other materials that you might need. You might be able to send your prospects some samples of your products if you've got a physical product to show them. Or if you're doing things virtually, you could use a video clip maybe with a tour of your facility, or actually physically take them around with your phone if they can't visit you on site, and make it a bit more interesting on that way. Make sure you have a list of questions to hand that you're planning to answer, so that you can gather all the information that you want. You do not want to finish the call or the Zoom call and think, oh damn, I didn't ask him that. That's really frustrating. So have your list of questions ready, and then you'll have confidence that you're going to cover it all off. Think carefully about what you want to get from the interaction. And we were talking about social media earlier. Use it to your advantage. Check out your client on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever's relevant to them. And if you can look at their content and see what challenges they might have or what they've been doing currently, you might find out that they've just recruited a new team member. That will give you something to talk about to begin the conversation as well. So that's your preparation. Excellent.
And just on that point, now some of the things that are coming back from chat. Catherine, you know, the fact that it's recommended, Linda was saying that to look at social media channels.
There we go.
You can find out a lot from that, and research the business. That's really important.
Website.
Look at the website. Yeah, it's a very good point from Karen. And that way, as Jeremy pointed out, you can get to know the client, and Sean concurs that you can start to meditate and working out what their potential needs could be. This is before you've even taken front, which is great.
Thanks, everybody. That's really helpful input. So then we move on to step 2, which is our introduction. So what do you think you might need to do when you're introducing yourself? Again, put some points in the chat and Alistair will follow those up for us. But if you are introducing yourself in person, socially distanced at the moment, or are you doing it over Zoom? It's largely the same process, but there are some differences. Firstly, smile and be positive. Maybe get dressed. Don't pitch up in your pajamas. Certainly waist up, look reasonable. I find that Zoom meetings are the only opportunity to wear lipstick, because when you're out and about, you're wearing a mask, so you can't wear lipstick. So that's a real benefit. Put some on, why not? But even if you're doing it over the telephone, make sure you smile. You can actually hear a smile in someone's voice, and that's really important to demonstrate a positive attitude, and a poor attitude will come across. In your Zoom environment, do think about your background. I can't tell you how many times I've had a call with someone and they've got their laundry hanging in the background or something like that. You want to think about what room you're doing your meeting in. Is the lighting okay? Can they see you? All of those kind of factors need to come into play. Introduce yourself, first name, last name, what your company is and what your job role is within the business, so that they can understand who they're playing with. Set the scene, explain the purpose of the meeting, and make it orientate around them and not around you. If necessary, ask if it's okay if you take notes. You might want to capture how many units of whatever it is they're buying that they want, what their budget restraints are. You want to make notes of those items. Again, you don't want to ring up the client afterwards because you've forgotten what they told you on a technical aspect. If it looks as though there might be some common ground between you, you might want to chat about that. Who introduced you? Was it a referral? Did you meet at an event sometime in the past? Networking like this, maybe? Do you have a common interest? It can be anything, sports, kids, anything. Then that helps you break the ice. And it's good to chat about this and ease the conversation. If you were doing a meeting in person, you'd be able to look around the office and say they'd have a lovely big picture of their yacht behind them and you could chat about their sailing. But even within a Zoom environment, you can perhaps see that they've got 15 orchids behind them and orchids is their thing. Use that as an opportunity to raise a conversation and to talk about things, and set the agenda for the meeting as well. This is something that's really makes people feel at ease. So you could say something along the lines of, if it's okay with you, we'll start by seeing where you're at with your business today, what your challenges are and how we might be able to help with those challenges and fixing that. Does that sound okay with you? And then you're in control of the meeting and they know what the expectations are, and then you can move on to the next stage. Is there in the chat, Alistair, we needed to cover off?
Well, just everyone's violently in agreement with you.
Nice.
Before you mentioned about the dress, really good point from Jeremy. Yes, it needs to be appropriate and professional. You want to look professional in that. Ellie was referring back to the chamber event yesterday. Unconscious bias is something that obviously you need to work out for as well. And then making sure, Avril was saying about making sure your lighting's right, making sure you're not blinding someone as the sun bounces off your head, or you look like you're in a witness protection scheme because because the lighting is so bad and you're basically in shadow throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
So it's making sure, as you rightfully say, making sure your background's good, your lighting's good, and you're dressed appropriate for the occasion. So some really good feedback coming through.
Cool. So step 3 of the process is moving on to questioning, and this is a really vital part of the sales process. So we're going to use the breakout function here to think about the types of questions you might use in a sales meeting and why you would ask those questions, and then we'll come back into the room and share that with those findings. So ready when you are, Molly. That's okay. One of the things that came up in our group was making that first contact. Again, it's this whole fear of picking up the phone and probably rejection. And I think it's about, one of the chaps in our room was saying he's all fine and dandy if, he's had a referral or something, and he says, oh, Katherine said give you a call and that you might be interested. That's where he feels very confident. He knows what he's talking about, but actually making a cold call to someone feels very uncomfortable. So yeah, it's how to get your foot in the door and have something warm and encouraging to say. Is Alistair there? Did you have anything in your room?
Yeah, we had lots. Yeah, it was very dynamic discussions going on in our room. A lot were around that part of establishing the challenges, doing the gap analysis from where they are now to where they want to be. Also, to adapt the question so that you establish priorities, timescales, and the best outcome as well. So positioning your questions to that, and also making sure that it doesn't come across as an interrogation. That was a big thing that came out in our group.
Well, I think one of the things, Chris, did you have anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say what we did. We talked a little bit about making sure that we got that rapport element going first, just to ease people in, and then really to talk and try and understand what their real challenges were. Look for that D that you were talking about earlier on, Katherine, and then maybe working on from there.
That's great. One of the things that came up in our room is the style of questioning as well. So there are several formats with your questioning style that will give you different feedback. So the first one is a why question, and this establishes the needs of the client, and asking questions allows them to open up about themselves, and sometimes they'll discover things that they didn't realize they actually needed by asking questions. And questioning can help discover how best to develop the relationship. Good questions and good listening build rapport, like Chris was saying. And then once you've done the why questions, you need to think about the what questions. So how is their existing service? What works well and what doesn't? How are they feeling? Is there a problem that they would like addressing? And what's important to them? And what key areas do they want to see some improvement in? And what they're trying to achieve. If you can establish all of that, you know exactly what your FS, your first steps, are going to need to be, because you'll want to be addressing those challenges and problems. And there are two sorts of questions, which John spoke about in our breakout room: open questions and closed questions. Open questions gather information and build rapport, and closed questions filter, qualify, and seek commitment. So an example of if I was to ask you a question like, are you enjoying yourselves? That's a closed question. There's only two answers. You can say yes or no. Hopefully you'd say yes. But if I wanted more information, I'd ask an open question. Why are you enjoying yourself? And hopefully you'd give me some more information there. So remember, you need to be professional and you need to have a set of questions prepared. And we talked about that in our breakout room, because that then gives you the confidence and you don't end up as a rabbit in the headlight, not knowing what to say. Make sure you tailor the questions to the conversation, and preparing your questions will give you that confidence. And it's part of the sales process because it allows us to establish the need and the dissatisfaction, and to also understand the vision. So the D for the dissatisfaction and what the gap is between that, and the V of the vision of what good looks like. So once we've done all our questioning, we move on to the presentation stage of the sales process. So we've spent some time understanding how our client is and what the opportunity is, and then we need to meet their needs and hopefully help them start achieving their vision. So this is the FS part of the equation. So what should your presentation or your pitch include? What messages might you want to get across? Remember, your presentation should be partly prepared and partly tailored from the information that you gathered from that questioning process. You may want to share the screen and offer up some slides like this, and some information. This will show that you're prepared and that you're professional. It doesn't have to be complicated, and it definitely shouldn't be long-winded because you'll bore the pants off them. Just a few clear slides is all you need, and it might be really helpful to send them to it after the sales meeting so that they could then show it to a colleague or to a decision maker. Your presentation should focus really on your unique selling points and how these meet your clients' needs. Why should they pick you over and above Joe Bloggs down the road? And how can your unique selling points add value and incremental benefits? And these can be financial benefits, or they might be non-financial. It could be that you're local or that you can do things more quickly for them. Those are still benefits over and above the competition. And how your solution manages the client's risks, such as budget constraints, quality, performance. You need to evidence compliance, perhaps, examples of accreditations or certifications that show that you know what you're doing and your quality standards. Demonstrate your credibility. Give examples of how you've worked with other clients that are similar to them and work that you have done that is similar. Is there anything in the chat that we haven't addressed on the questioning presentation side of things, Alistair?
Not on the presentation, no. I think they're all very, very valid points. There's a debate. Well, it's not a debate. Everyone's agreeing, I think, on the questioning side as to whether you ask how someone is. To begin your sales call with, how are you? Yeah, there's an interesting debate going on. So yeah. Please feel free to join in with your thoughts on that as well.
I think if you ask anyone how they are, there's the first question, they go, yeah, I'm fine. And then if you ask it again, you might get a different answer.
That's very true. Yeah, it's whether you immediately get the person to put the shutters up by asking that question. It's interesting. It's good to start a debate going. So that's good.
So once we've done our simple presentation, hopefully, you get to the next stage of the sales process, which is overcoming objections and your negotiation phase. So what we've done is we've spent some time understanding what the client wants and making sure that our presentation aligns. So normally the first step to overcoming an objection is to check that we've done that effectively for the client. Objections are the R in our formula, the resistance to being sold to. And this is often the bit where we get stuck as a complicated question or objection is raised. So if we want to go back into the breakout rooms now, we can talk about some common objections and how we've handled those and how we might overcome them. So if that's okay with you, Molly, another quick breakout. We had some interesting conversations about overcoming objections, and lots of it was down to price and demonstrating how your offering can justify the price that you're charging. One of Graham, who does engraving, was saying that people go elsewhere and get a cheaper job done, and then they come back to him because they realise the quality was rubbish. So that's quite interesting. Chris, did you have any good comments in your room? Has he gone?
You're on mute, Chris. Sorry. Yeah, we had a bit of a discussion about the fact that we were trying to avoid, or we were trying to avoid the cost element of objection, and really we had a conversation around making sure that the offering that we'd made initially really did match off against the requirement that they had. So we had a brief chat about maybe making sure that your questioning goes to the right level so that you can present the right thing, so you've effectively overcome most of the objections even before they turn up.
Great point.
That's a really good one. So yeah, good.
Alistair, did you have anything good in your room?
We had lots of good things. Yeah, I mean, I think cost was an issue, but yeah, sort of coming to that a little bit later. I think a lot was around, if anything, it was quite conceptual. It's how you make sure that the other person is hearing what you're saying, and as much as possible, looking at common objections that come up and make sure that you've got the information ready to hand to help the person see value, because it's about value. It's all about making sure they can get an idea of what their ROI will be. We've had a little bit of jingoism from breakout room 5. Kaz is saying that breakout room rocks, and apparently in that breakout room it was managing expectation that was the issue, how they would do that. So again, sort of being forewarned is forearmed, isn't it? So it's making sure in that situation you get as much much of those objections covered off in your own mind before you even go into the meeting.
Okay. I think it boils down to showing your credibility and your capability. Some of the common objections we get are, I don't want to rock the boat. We've been working with our current supplier for years. It's going to change is going to cause problems, or I don't know whether what you can offer can really improve my business. Can you prove it? What's better about your service versus my current supplier? Or I need to convince my boss. Can you help me with that? Or it's just too expensive. We talked about that, didn't we? Why should I pay more? Will it be worth it? And at this point in the sales process, you don't really want to get too heavily bogged down with just price discussions. But one of the useful tools that you can use is that feel, felt, found. So I understand how you feel. Other clients that we've worked with felt the same way with their uncertainty about changing suppliers, but we found that when they changed over to us, their business really benefited from it and that they never looked back. Those kind of tools are quite useful to use. So if you can go through the points and steer them back to your presentation and demonstrate your unique selling points, then you'll show how hopefully you can improve their business. So in a past sales role, we were always told that we do lots of informing, telling people about the benefits and all of that kind of stuff. But what you want to do is get them to the point where you're actually asking if they're interested in going ahead. So how do you get them to the next stage of the sales process, the closing? If anybody's got any ideas about that, do pop that into the chat. But it's really simple. You actually just need to ask the question, would you like to proceed? And it's... that's got a yes or a no answer to it. If they say no, then you go back to exploring why and deal with those issues to their satisfaction. And even now, we're not talking about price. But the closing part of the agreement, there are two pyramids that we've got here. The best way to run a sales meeting is to split your time according to the pyramid on the left. If you've spent all of your time asking questions, making sure your presentation lines up to their expectations and offers them the solutions that they need, then closing should really only represent 5% of the time needed, as it'll be a formality. Let's go ahead and sign the deal. All too often, if you don't get the process right before all of this, you'll be spending your time according to the right-hand side of the pyramid, with 75% of your time spent on closing, because you won't have dealt with their concerns, nor their needs, nor presented your offering properly. So they'll be quizzing you when all you want to do is close the deal. So how do we manage the closing process? So hopefully by now we'll have dealt with all of the non-financial objections, the service delivery and the quality and all of that kind of thing. And you are now able to talk about your pricing structure in the knowledge that this is the only potential objection left. If at this stage price is an issue, you've got the opportunity to show the value you add and negotiate a deal. Be clear on your pricing structure and what you can negotiate. You really don't want to be reinventing the wheel at this point. You should have a clear start and end point for your pricing offer. And once complete, you can then close the deal. So how do you do that? As I say, you can just ask the question, a closed question. Would you like to proceed? You've got to ask them if they want to go ahead. You can't keep informing and woollying around it. If the answer's no, then you need to find out why. What do I need to do to secure this business? That's a really useful question. And they can hopefully honestly tell you what the problem is. It might be that they can't make a decision for 2 weeks, or that the boss has got to sign off on the budget. Then you actually know where you stand and what the problem and the objection might be. If you can ask these questions, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you'll make a success, but it does maximise your chances. And if you don't get the sale on the day, schedule your follow-up so that they know that you're going to get in touch within a week or whatever the time frame is that you want to look at. If they're talking to a competitor, people shop around, then that's really important. And they'll want to, you can find out exactly when they'll have looked at all of the competitor offerings, and then you can get back to them. But if it is a definite no, you want to know why, because we can always learn from this and you may have the opportunity to pitch again. So how do we manage the follow-up? Why do we need to do follow-up? After sales follow-up depends on the type of product or service that you're offering, but generally for every sale, there's a number of really important processes that you should prepare for. Complete all the relevant paperwork, so confirmation orders, agreed delivery timeframes, invoices, all of that kind of thing, and actively follow up with the customer as often as necessary to ensure that they're really comfortable and happy, particularly if you're a new supplier. This ensures you're best placed to deliver future services as well, because if you keep them happy on this one, they might want to take you on for other services as well. Capture the detail of the sale, maintain the key performance indicators such as the agreed price, the quantity and the future requirements, and confirm this really quickly with them. Have it pre-prepared and just drop the numbers into the email confirmation or whatever and send that through quickly. Don't leave them hanging. Send any documents digitally and agree a time frame for when you want them to confirm back to you if there's anything they need to come back to you on, and set a date with them that you'll call them back if they don't confirm in the interim. That way you're not left hanging and wondering whether they're going to confirm with you and sign the deal. So that's it, that's the sales process. And if we were going to put that into a sales meeting, it might look something like this. So Alistair's going to sum it up for us.
Yes, so this is our process. Everything we've done today is based on that simple formula that we went through earlier on. So really, yes, we do need to make the most of our prep time. We need to be fully prepared. That will help as we start to build the rapport, and the data from our prep will help us with that, as well as noticing photos or pictures on screen, or in the offline world, whether we notice anything in the waiting room that we can reference. Positive, obviously. And then let the prospect talk. Let them boast. They will enjoy that, and they will remember that you let them do that, which will add to the rapport building. And then really the main thrust of today, being in control of the meeting, setting that agenda, and then sticking to it, so that you know exactly where you want the meeting to go. Then the fact that you're the navigator, you're using clever questions to tease out of them information, so that they'll be in a position to benefit the products or services that you're looking to promote. And then, do we remember this? The closing pyramid. We want to be like the pyramid on the left. We want to be relationship building rather than knowledge based. Why is that? Well, by doing that, you actually find out a lot more information. It means that as you move towards the close, you'll actually have a relationship with the prospect rather than just chucking a load of information in your face. So we have that great practical suggestion from Katherine that if we have a yes, then we have all of our confirmation paperwork, emails and whatever prepared before the meeting so that we can simply top and tail it and send it through, which will give an excellent impression for our new client. If it's a no, find out why. Take feedback, because that will all help with your learning. And then we can adapt and improve. The more we adapt and improve, the more confident we'll be and the more we will enjoy sales. If it's a maybe, what do we do? Well, if we're in control of the meeting, then we should be in control of the follow-up. If we've covered off all objections, then we agree that that time to revisit. We appreciate that they may need some thinking time, particularly if they're looking at other alternatives to us as a service provider. As much as possible, we need to be in control of the ball, because you can't score a goal without having the ball. And really, it shouldn't be a surprise if our prospect does hear from us. We always, it should go without saying, but we never want to contact too much so that we end up with a restraining order dropping on our doormat. But if we can, if we do get a no and people have started to shut down, people have started ghosting us, people are not returning calls or emails, then put that person back into your pipeline. Keep them in mind. If you see something in the news or if you see something which might benefit them, then perhaps use that as an opportunity to try re-engage, because that shows that you're the superstar that we sure you are. And obviously, if you've got a nice full pipeline, then you shouldn't need to keep going back to prospects where we feel we're moving, we're trying to push too hard. So lesson is to try and have much of a pipeline as we possibly can. That's all very well for you to say, Alistair and Katherine, but what if we don't have a full pipeline? What if we don't have the people to talk about or talk to? Well, primarily that's where Katherine and myself come in. We help clients to start the conversations that are closed when you win the business in the sales meeting. We've produced an ebook which we hope will help you to put a marketing strategy together. If you haven't got one, or if you haven't got it yet and you'd like a copy, please drop your email address in the chat room and in the chat function, and we'll make sure that you get a copy. Katherine and I also offer 30-minute free marketing reviews for the Chamber members. So again, if you're interested in finding out more about that, please just drop us your email in the chat. So lastly, I think it comes to us to say all our thank yous. We'd like to say a big thank you to the Chamber for making this event possible, and all the help and support, particularly Molly, who's been a normal brilliant self and has helped it on the technical side, and also a great introduction. I hope we were able to follow through with that massive build-up she gave us. If you're not already a Chamber member, then we'd strongly urge you to look at the possibility of becoming a member. Please have a cup of coffee with Kaz, even if it's a virtual cup of coffee with Kaz, and find the features of the Chamber membership that could be a benefit to you. And in fact, if you're not convinced after talking to Kaz, then I'll even pay for the coffees. How about that?
That's marvellous. Thank you. Very kind of you.
I'll expect
my colleague.
I'll expect you to keep the receipts. Yes.
Indeed. My colleague, Kelly Chawner and Kaz, always happy to talk Chamber. Katherine and Alistair, you have created so much chat in the chat. Well done, both of you. Hats off to you. It's been a really engaging event. Thank you to all the contributors here. Special shout out for Linda Cloak, who's been really, really helpful here, Rosemary, and all of you who've contributed. Very quick shout out to our new member, Karen Godden here. Very, very nice to see you. I hope it wasn't a horrible baptism of fire. And Molly, over to you for upcoming events.
Thank you, Kaz. Put me on the spot here. So upcoming events. Next Tuesday, we have a virtual roundtable event. This will be held with Wilton Park, discussing how businesses need to consider the sort of green element, and how this affects obviously climate change. It's a big topic at the moment, always will be, and what we can be doing to sort of change our carbon footprint, and also wider than that, if you think there should be more input from the government or local chambers or local government. So that is on next Tuesday. Next Thursday as well, if you fancy some networking, we have business talks with Kelly Chulner. Kelly does the role very similar to Kaz, so she is one of the membership executives here. She'll be hosting this event, and we will have Peter Core from the Ashford Designer Outlet, who has recorded a virtual tour of the business and some informative information for you all. I think that's everything from me for now. I suppose just to say a massive thank you to Alistair, Katherine, Chris. It's been a fantastic session today, and lovely to see that everyone's enjoyed it. Lots of questions being asked, which is a great sign too. So thank you so much, and I think that's everything for today. So hopefully see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
Thank you very much, everyone.